एकं अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदय कुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा चिन्वता मज्जता आत्मनिष्ठो देहं मृण्मय जडात्मकम् अहं भुक्तिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भाव ओहं भावयुत कुतो गदधिय दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोहं स्फुटितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोहं स्फुटितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं Namo Runa. In this, the Thursday Satsangh from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, it has been our practice to read 2 verses selected for us from Guru Vachaka Kovai, the work by Muruganar Swamigal. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that shall be followed by a practice session of 10 minutes duration of self-inquiry. And after these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and the practice of Atmavacharam are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Shri Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and that shall be followed by the offering of Sri Ramanashtotram. The verbal chanting will be by Revati Ma online, and the floral offerings shall be by Manjunath ji from right here. We commence the satsang by taking the first verse selected for us, verse number 215. 215, we find in the first segment, investigation into truth. After the prefatory verses are completed, there are three segments: investigation into truth, meditation on the truth, and experience of the truth, akin to Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, or Viveka, then Manana and Nididhyasana. This 215th verse we find in the first segment, investigation into truth. The sub-segment is power and peace. Power and peace. Shakti and Shanti. 215. The power of the self is only the power of divine grace. The power of the self is only the power of divine grace. Accordingly, there is no need that cannot be successfully accomplished through the power of the self. Accordingly, there is no deed that cannot be successfully accomplished through the power of the self. It is this squalid delusion that dances, taking the body as I, that makes some assert what the power of the self cannot accomplish, the strength of shoulder and sword can. It is the squalid delusion that dances, taking the body as I, that makes some assert what the power of the self cannot accomplish, the strength of shoulder and sword can. So some people make this statement assuming that grace or power of the self is applicable only in a particular domain and not in others. For instance, some may say in giving mukti alone it is having power, but not in the accomplishing of things. But Bhagavan is saying here, it is the Sarva Shakti. It is the highest power, the power of grace, which can accomplish any deed. The power of the self is only the power of divine grace. Bhagavan says, in Who Am I? When the questioner asks, is all this not the power of God that is doing everything? Bhagavan says, of course, all this that is happening is by the power of God, but we cannot attribute any desire or need for that power. We cannot say that God wants this to happen or has a particular desire to be fulfilled. It is like the sun and the activities on the earth. How all the activities on the earth go on merely in the sannidhi of the sun, the presence of the sun. Similarly, the sun, the stars, and all living beings, they are actually acting in the sannidhi of the self-abiding self, self-attentive self. In fact, it is the self-attending or self-luminous self that is the real sun. The sun that we can see is not the real sun. It is existing in the triad of seer, seeing, seen. Only when the consciousness separates itself from the source and raises as an ego and goes through the senses, then through the eyes it can see the light of the sun, and through the skin it can feel the temperature of the sun. Whereas in happens, the whole creation, all the karmas, all happen in the sannidhi of that self. That is why the power of the self is said to be the power of divine grace. Now, how can, when it is outward turned, it is Shakti. The same Spurana, the same Spurana I, when it is inward directed, it is Shanti. But when you are looking at the radiant rays it is sending out, then it is Shakti. Accordingly, there is no deed at all that cannot be successfully accomplished through the power of the self. Some may be surprised at this. In fact, so is Ganapati Muni, who asks a similar question in Ramana Gita. He says that if somebody has a sankalpa, he does not even decide what sankalpa it is. If somebody has a sankalpa, before starting self-inquiry, will the sankalpa be fulfilled or not? Bhagavan also doesn't ask what is the nature of this sankalpa, deed, accomplishment, nothing. What Bhagavan says is, of course, that sankalpa will be fulfilled. That deed will be completed, self will be realized, and the deed will be treated as no consequence. That whether it happened or not, the self-realized one will not be having any meaning or value for that deed. The meaning or value for that deed was present when the ajnana was there. That when the ego was there, it was decided. But it was decided by the one who wants to practice self-inquiry. Therefore, that thought sankalpa receives the full grace of God. See, for instance, we may be facing different types of problems. And problem relief is one of the prayers we have. What Ganapati Muni is asking, will the prayer be sanctioned? Will the prayer be granted? Bhagavan is saying, absolutely. But the prayer and its granting will does it mean? See, while in Ajnana, you may be praying, oh, somehow let my daughter get through the PhD. She seems to be so much struggling. But let's say that the primary interest is in self-inquiry and one is going through that. What Bhagavan is saying that the PhD will be completed definitely, but then you will understand what is it which is of absolutely no self. Then you understand what is it you wish for your daughter and what is it that you have felt she is struggling for. A few pennies more, or one house or one car or one PhD degree, some breadwinning education which you felt she is so interested in. But then what happens when you realize this self? You understand what is it you have really wished for. Therefore, Bhagavan says, though the sankalpa will be fulfilled for this, what is the point in taking them from point no quantity to point B? Basically, different things. Come to words at all. When you should have, what is the fun jnana? Could you wish for anything else other than the real happiness? But will the events be completed or not? No doubt. The deed will be accomplished. And it is only this squalid delusion of the I, the egoistic people, who say that the self is powerless and that you need ego and you need the power of the shoulder and the sword to achieve things. We can remind ourselves of another instance from Ganapati Muni, where Ganapati Muni asks, not for PhD, he asks for the liberation of India. It have been 20. So, no liberation being granted. So, Ganapati Muni is asking to do self-enquiry. Should I not, in addition to self-enquiry, do something so that India will get independence? Take great care in analyzing this particular thing and taking it to heart. Bhagavan says, no. You already have that sankalpa. You have already got that good wish for that deed that India be liberated. Now, it's clearly a goal for the whole of Indian population. Bhagavan is saying, there is no need for any other sadhana to be done. You do self-enquiry, that's all. And not only that, he says, Ishvara is the real doer. And at the right time, you will see that Ishvara grants freedom. You do self-enquiry only. One thing is, now that prayer is there, that request for India's liberation is there. Bhagavan is saying, put it in the presence of self-enquiry. In self-enquiry, what we do? We go to the root I. The I that is the starting point of all the I. And Ganapati Muni is asking, for a few of the I's, please grant freedom. Bhagavan is saying, go to that I, which is the source of all the living beings. You are already having that sankalpa. You ask, for whom is this sankalpa? For me, who am I? When you put it in self-attention, then you are going to that power which is at the source of all the beings. What better thing can you do than put that sankalpa directly at the feet of the root? Of course, you will not have divergent needs. If you take the need for PhD or for freedom as an outside need, then you can branch out to other needs also. But if you put it to self-enquiry, then there is no branching out for further demands, isn't it? There is going to be this demand only, and that demand only you will be putting. Again and again that thought may come because you are so deeply interested in liberation of India. But again and again you will be putting it to the source self. Therefore that will be granted, says Bhagavan. But you will understand that you should have wished for the self of all to be available to everyone. That's all. The freedom would have anyway been granted by Ishvara at the right time. So it is only the deluded ones who say that for freedom you need the power of the sword or power of the shoulder. The power of the self and the sannidhi of the self is more than enough, says Bhagavan, indicating to us what was at the root. Nowadays there is a lot of argument about who has given us the freedom because it's many years from that day. Now there is a lot of argument. How is it? Who gave? Not this person, that person and all that. Bhagavan is saying it is the sannidhi of the self. It is the grace of the self, grace of divinity that has given us everything that we have needed. Therefore, all deeds can be completed in the sannidhi of the self. Do self-enquiry alone is what Bhagavan is saying. So let us practice self-enquiry for the next 15 minutes. Revatima, you will set us the time. Thank you. Namo Ramana. We go on to the second verse selected for us, 1195. This is in the segment Experience of the Truth. The subsegment is Pure Silence. Shuddha Mauna. Pure silence. The means for Mauna Tapas is Jnana Vichara. The means for Mauna Tapas, the penance of pure silence, is Jnana Vichara. 1195. In the perspective of a person who has awakened from a dream, all the experiences he underwent as a dreamer perish, becoming a matter of laughter. Becoming a matter for laughter. In the perspective of a person who has awakened from a dream, all the experiences he underwent as dreamer perish, becoming a matter for laughter. Likewise, since the experiences a person underwent as a jiva, which are an imaginary appearance in the self, are lost in the experience of the self, they are all false. Likewise, like the dream, since the experiences a person underwent as a jiva, which are an imaginary experience in the self, are lost in his experience of the self, they are all false. Bhagavan, in talks, there is a quote from the talks, a dreamer dreams a dream. He sees the dream world with pleasures, pains, etc. But he wakes up and then loses all interest in the dream world. So it is with the waking world also. Just as the dream world, being only a part of yourself and not different from you, ceases to interest you, so also the present world would cease to interest you if you awake from this waking dream samsara and realize that it is a part of yourself and not an objective reality. Because you think that you are apart from the objects around you, you desire a thing. But if you understand that that thing was only a thought form, which is a part of you, you would no longer desire it. That's talk number 625. So, we might have had a very pleasant dream or a nightmare. Bhagavan usually says one wants to let go of the dream if it has been a nightmare. You usually awaken also in between because of the fear, and then you really understand that that was only a dream. All those fearful things are not real. That you really laugh at yourself for having been afraid of that dream tiger chasing you. Now, similar is the experience with the one awakening from this waking dream. He says, what does that mean? And he refers to the jiva experience, which vanishes on experience of the self. So let us look at that only, that portion only. What is this jiva experience? Simply put, it is the seer being apart from the seen, the observer being apart from the observed. That seems to be real now, that the observed things are apart from us, and by getting some observed thing, we seem to be better off or we seem to be worse off, depending on whether we like the observed thing or we hate the observed thing. Now, so the jiva experience is that of the division of seer, seeing, seen. Knower, knowing, known, being the other two. If that is clear, what is the jiva experience? Whenever you see a thought, you are a jiva. Whenever you see a sensory object, you are a jiva. Whenever you see you are emotionally caught up, you are a jiva. Whenever you see your breath is apart from you, you are a jiva. Whereas in self-attention, even with effort, see the possibility of self-attention, when we withdraw the attention that was going towards the observed or the scene, you withdraw that and fix it on yourself. What is the method suggested? The method suggested is, for whom is this thought? This thought is for me. Who am I? Turn the ray of attention which was going behind thought on yourself. So the object attending attention makes you a jiva, and subject turned attention makes one, though with effort, makes one a purna. Let us say like that. Makes one complete. The pradakshina is complete. What is the pradakshina of attention? It wants to go from object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4. Finally, I am the sensitivity. Who determines this is a good object, that is a beautiful object? Who says that? I am that sensitivity. So, the beauty is in me, because I determine what is beautiful or not. It is not in the object. It is in my sensitivity. Though I might be doing it inattentively, it is still arising from me. So what is this? What is this sensitivity? What is this consciousness which is able to create all that? When we put the attention on oneself, there is a completion of that pradakshina. The Girivalam is completed. So there, the Triputi, the triad of the seeing and seer, the seen being apart from me, it collapses. Because at the same moment, both cannot be true. The self-attentive self and the objective attentive self, both cannot be true. Either you can be a self-attentive self or you can be an object realizing self. So once we understand that the self-attentive self is the waking up from the dream of seer seeing seen, then the dream collapses. One is awakened from the dream. Now, what was the dream? It was part of me. It can never be apart from me. Bhagavan would always ask, somebody comes with some trouble. For whom is this trouble? Can that trouble exist apart from you? Is that trouble present for somebody else? May not be. So, but your trouble is definitely present for you. So it can never be apart from your self-attentive self. So instead of the trouble-attentive self, you turn your attention to self-attentive self. Then you understand that the trouble or the solution is not apart from you. And you will not be satisfied from a solution that's apart from you. That is merely a dream solution, incomplete solution, part of yourself, just like the dream. You realize that the dream was you only. Part of you rose from you and created that dream world and had all the enjoyments there and came back into you. Same way, this whole sensory creation, this whole emotional creation, all the planes of creation, they arise only from the self-attentive self. So Bhagavan is literally taking us back to God and placing us in Sayujyam, in oneness with God. What is he doing? Instead of objective attending self, be the self-attending self. Then one will not be interested in the dream. It may be there. The dream may continue to be visible, but it will be like a mirage. Previously, you felt that water appearing before you is going to quench your thirst. So you are running after the mirage. But now, though the mirage is still visible, there is no anxious running after that. Your eyes don't chase after things and say that, get that, you will be satisfied. Now, the jnana comes and says, you are not going to be satisfied with that. That is only yourself projecting itself as that. You will get satisfaction only in self-attention with effort now and naturally on completion of the vasanas. So let us sit in Atma Ucharan for the next 10 minutes. Devatima, you will help us out again. Okay. May I request Venkatesh Deshpande ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Jnanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guru. Namo Ramana. We have two interesting verses today. The first one was the power of the self is actually the divine grace. Now, have you ever wondered, if you go around in the morning for a morning walk, you have all these birds twittering around, all lovely, the mynas and sometimes the other small birds, the crows and the parrots, all are singing in the morning and probably later in the evening also. But there's one little bird which is not there during the day. How many of us have realized that? If you really see the owl, OWL, the owl is actually not there during the day, but that fellow is there at night and it goes around. Now, how does this happen? Have you ever inquired why does this owl feel that he or she should not be flying around during the day like the other birds? Well, it's a bird finally. It's part of the bird family. It should be flying. Now, this is the power of grace. This is the power of God. This is the intelligence that God, the divine, has put into this owl to be able to stay up at night and go around, finding its food and all at night. It's such a wonder that something as small as this, many of us actually do not realize. Small thing like that. The bees, they somehow find the nectar, and they go to the flowers, and they pick the pollen, and then bring it to the honeycomb, and then the whole thing goes on, growing and growing and growing. So how does that happen? Have you ever stopped to ever think about it? It is just unbelievable that sunflower, the sunflower follows the sun. I'm not sure if you've driven past in some fields. There will be millions of sunflowers just following the sun. Whichever way the sun is, the sunflower will be looking in that direction. Who gave the intelligence to this sunflower? It's actually the grace, the divine, as actually playing out. Divine is grace is playing out every moment in our lives, but we're not able to understand this. Imagine for a second, you open the tap in your kitchen, water comes out. How is that happening? It's a miracle. That ocean, which is full of salt water, gets evaporated, becomes clouds, rains, comes down as snow or ice, again flows. Again, that water is so dirty and this and that, and finally it gets into rivers and then finally gets pulled out into what huge water tanks, and then from there it goes into overhead tanks. From there it goes into sumps, and then again gets pumped up, and then finally comes to your tap. What grace! How many things but we just take it for granted that we open the tap and the water comes. So this is a very important thing that in our sadhana that we need to really look at. The second thing, which was a beautiful thing, is this aspect of the movie. The movie goes on all the time. Actually, the movie never stops. It's like the Citibank. They say the city never sleeps. It's like that. This movie goes on whenever it is. But the point really is how we deal with this movie that is going on. Now, when we have the dream, what happens? We're able to drop it and say, oh, it was just a dream. And somebody will say, oh, I think so, you had a bad dream last night. You were talking. Oh, yeah, I think so, I had a bad dream. I've dropped it now. It's gone. It's finished. But look at the waking dream. The waking dream is there all the time. And what's happening? It's very, very true when it is happening. Like right now, what's happening in the satsang? Whose satsang is this, if you ask? We'll say it's a satsang for everybody, for all these 15 people or 13 people who are right now in the satsang. Satsang is for everybody. But actually, satsang is mine. This satsang is mine. It's me. It's all about me. We think that, oh, it's all about somebody else. No. You do something. We all know this. We've heard this many times, but good to repeat. We may do something that finally it makes us happy. Because it makes us happy, we do something good to others. It's not that at a core level, there is a sense of selfishness. However great a soul you may be, finally it makes you happy. So important thing is we have to understand this aspect of this whole movie is going on all the time, and we are part of this movie. And the part is what? We are part of the whole. The whole thing is our movie. This is all, we're part of that. It's not outside us. We think, oh, there's somebody like Nand Kumar who's there in this satsang. There is Prasad, there's Jayashri, all different names and forms who are there. But actually, it's a cohesive one. And there's actually nothing outside me. Everything is happening in me. It's very important. Once you have this generates a great level of viveka and vairagya. Great dispassion comes about in this. When great dispassion comes about, then what happens? All the names and forms sort of just melt away. And the thing that we have been holding on to also just melts away. Then that's when you are in the self, you are in the thought free state. When you are in the thought free state, you are in bliss. You are with Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana, sir. We request Revatima to do the chanting of Ashtotram. Manjunath ji will be offering the flowers. Namo Ramana, thank you.
श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावली अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशेः यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेनमहोंशेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौळिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादघसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ हृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डाक्षवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणात्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणभगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्व गभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्यैकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि। नमो महर्षि। दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संधिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆ ಬಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಧಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय
ನಮೋ ರಮಣ ಅಕ್ಕ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.